Hello, everyone, and welcome to Energy Gal Meditations. I'm Lisa. I am just going to even keep that. I work with the human energy system in tandem with cosmic energies to create what I hope for us is safe space for our awakening, healing, ascending, becoming, emerging journey. Today, I want to talk about timelines because I had some really big shifting going on in the past few days, and it took me by surprise, and it wasn't until after it happened that I realized that's what happened. And so I thought, if that happened to me, it might be happening to other people. So I want to unpack what it means to shift a timeline and what it feels like when you are trying to shift a timeline. Okay, so before we get into it, I want to remind you that I've got guided meditations for the wounded inner child. I have sound bowl meditations for calming the nervous system, and I have written meditations to help you re-narrate your story and create a more empowered life. And energy updates and little things like this that I'm hoping will help you on your journey, working with the energies at a most conscious level. Okay, so back to timelines. So before us, depending on the choices that we make, we could experience any number of realities. It's like endless that are in front of us, depending on the choice that we make. If we go down this door, that's what we're going to experience. This door, we're going to experience that. And I mean just on your daily life and how it's unpacking and how it can radically be different depending on the choices that you make. Case in point, I had to find a job making really good money when I was about 20 years old because I had to pay for my own college. And I knew that I just couldn't do a minimum wage job. I was shy, I was introverted, but I thought, all right, what's going to make the most money around here? I'm going to need to be a waitress. So I ended up walking about 2 miles, and I applied at all the different restaurants and such that were along the strip there, and didn't hear back from most anybody. Well, about a week and a half goes by, and I'm thinking, okay, I need to get a job. So in the middle of the rain, I had my little rain jacket on, my rain boots. I walked the 2 miles, applied to all the jobs. Well, quite a bit farther down the strip was Perkins. At the time, it was Perkins. And everything in me said, you've got to go apply there. But it was quite a bit further down, and it was raining pretty hard by then. But I thought, I've come this far, and I'm just feeling this unction that I'm supposed to go in that direction, even though it's freaking raining. So, okay, I'll go. So I go in the door, and the waitress who's there, God, what was her name? I can't remember. Joanne. I think it was Joanne. She says, oh my goodness, I'm so glad you came back. They had accidentally poured coffee or something on my resume that I had filled out, my application, and they weren't able to get a hold of me. So I sat right down then, filled out the application, applied for my job, and got the job right then and there. And that's where I met my husband. He was working second shift as the manager. I was working third shift as one of the waitresses. Had I not gone down that way, I may not have met him. Now, maybe I would have met him in some other way, though our paths never crossed any other time in any other way. I was an English major with music, and he was a business and math, so we didn't meet anywhere, but we did meet at that job. So that changed my entire trajectory because I ended up staying here in this town where I went to college. We had 5 kids, and on life unpacks from there. Had I not met him, my plan was I was going to move down south. So life would have been different. I'm not saying it would have been better, it would have been worse, but it would have been different. So to me, I ventured on that timeline because that's the choices that I made to get there. Okay, so what I experienced this past few days was I was trying hard to create my videos exercise and do things the way I normally do them, and it just wasn't working. I felt like, all I could say is in my body, I felt like things were just dragging. Like I didn't have the passion. I didn't have the vision. I didn't have the clarity. I didn't want to do it. It felt old. It felt tired. It felt worthless. I was like, I just don't want to do this. And yet I had a vision of creating videos or, keep on exercising. But I was trying to do it the old way. I didn't realize until I took one day and I said, okay, I'm going to stop. I am just going to allow this thing to unpack itself. What's going on? And what I realized is that my whole being was trying to jump a timeline to do something different, to create a more expanded, I guess higher frequency, I don't like to use high and low, but expanded timeline. And I was trying to bring yesterday's paradigms and vision into that next, and it wasn't working. Now, the vision to have a YouTube channel, that worked, but the way I was doing it wasn't working. So I had to sit with that and be like, okay, so what comes, what goes, what stays, what no longer serves? Same thing with exercise. I had a way I was doing things and goals that I was making that no longer felt fresh. They no longer felt like they were part of my passion anymore. And so I thought, okay, I'll let them go and see what unpacks from there. And I could tell the way that I exercise, the goals that I had made, they all shifted a little bit. And as they shifted, I thought, well, that feels like a puzzle piece that found I was trying to jam a puzzle piece. And as soon as I found the right, right now, there you go. It wasn't that I was supposed to stop exercising. It's that the goals and the way that I was doing it was moving and shifting. So some of the things that I realized were not going to come with me into this expanded consciousness, into the next timeline or any kind of victim narrative. And that is something that I've been working on for the past year. But I have become so sensitive that there's even a tiny little victim narrative. I'm like, and that's not coming. And that's not coming with me. I changed from, on my YouTube channel, from doing so much when it comes to trying to make an exercise video, because that's what I used to do for 30 years. I was an exercise instructor. And I realized that doesn't feel fresh and passionate for me as I go into this next season. And so I've allowed other people to make the exercise videos, but that's no longer going to be a part of what I'm offering. When I come into a space of thinking, well, life is happening to me, and again with the victim and the lack of feeling empowered and blaming and shaming and feeling guilty and ashamed, I realize all of that and all the narrative around it, that wanted to be seen because it didn't want to come into the next timeline with me. It wasn't part of my new story. It's almost like, if you can imagine, a timeline shift is not necessarily that you close the book and you start a new book. That can happen. I mean, maybe that's the death, and then you get born into a new body and you start a new book, like part 1, part 2, part 3 series or something, because you bring your consciousness and your from previous lifetimes. But I think it's more like closing a chapter. And there are some parts of the chapter, some characters in the chapter that you were in, some things that you believed, that you valued, that were important to you, that mattered, that you realize they stay in this chapter and they don't come with me into the next chapter. And you allow them to stay in that previous chapter. They weren't bad. It's just that they were part of the previous chapter and they're not part of the next chapter. The people that don't come with you, it's not that they were bad people. They were there in the previous chapter for a reason, but they don't have the same frequency as the next chapter does. And so you may find that they are not characters in the next chapter. It's a beautiful book that you are writing and that you are, that is being written with you as the character. So to think of things as good and bad is not helpful. Things just are. And there are certain situations and people that don't necessarily resonate as you go into the next chapter. It's the best way I can explain it. And as soon as it's like the energy's kind of settled, and what did I do? I drank a lot of water. Asked my husband, I just kept, like, I was so thirsty. And sometimes I get extra hungry and sometimes I'm not hungry at all. This one, I was just so thirsty. So I drank lots of water. I went to bed early, got up early. I started a new exercise regime with a little different focus. And I found that as I allowed myself a couple weeks off from the YouTube, that the new chapter, the new timeline, the new purpose and intent for what the YouTube is showed itself. It showed up because I wasn't trying to make it be anything. I was just allowing, even to the point where I thought, I just won't post for a couple of weeks and let me just see what unpacks itself. And when the new came and I sat with it, marinated in it just a little bit, felt it into my body, allowed it to be, it then started feeling right. And my whole system was like, okay, I think I have found myself in the next chapter. And I turned the page. The previous chapter is in the past. I haven't tried to bring it into this chapter. Okay, we're good. And I had clarity. So I would say it was a good week, intense 3 to 4 days, but a good week or so of confusion and frustration. And I could feel that in my body. So from now on, when I experience that confusion and frustration, I find myself extremely thirsty or extremely hungry and feeling not quite right, not having the vision, not having the passion. I think that what I'm going to do is ask myself, is the chapter starting to try to finish up? Is the story starting to close so that a new chapter can start? And I'll get curious and ask myself that question and allow that to unpack itself. Because I think that's a lot of what's going to be happening in this next season of time. So I hope that maybe has been helpful. I'm wondering if you have been experiencing anything like that. Other people experience, obviously, Ascension symptoms, ringing in the ears, lots of hunger, lots of sleep, not wanting to sleep, insomnia, a falling away of different relationships, new relationships starting. So there are all sorts of physical, social, relational, personal Ascension symptoms. So let's have a conversation around it. So thank you for your time, your presence, your energies here in this space. As always, it's my intention to encourage you. So if I can be of assistance to you on your journey, please connect in with me. I've got some connections down there in the description box as to how to get a hold of me. I also have journals for sale that are 30-day guided journals that I think pack a punch of goodness that can help you on your journey as well. It's been wonderful, and I thank you for any subscribes, any likes, any shares, any comments. I love our community, and I love you. Take care, everybody.